Well, I'm going to get started.
All right. What am I supposed to do?
This is totally... I'm leaving that in.
Yeah, that's fine.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Adam from Miller's Custom Guitars and the new podcast, N+1. You know, this is the 5th episode. Maybe I should stop calling it the new podcast. You know?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
When does it stop being new?
I don't know.
I think when you start having really terrible commercials. This is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace, please give Adam some money. We're just hoping for the best.
I just published the trailer today. So if, you know, behind the veil here, I'm backloading a couple episodes so I can launch. This is the 5th episode I'm recording, but I haven't even released any yet. And I just published the trailer today, and I sent it to my sister. And she goes, well, what does N+1 even mean? Not my sister Bethany, who was in the first episode, because she understands, but my other sister Allison. She goes, well, what does N+1 even mean? And well, let me explain. If you are a first-time viewer or listener, you know, there's a long-running joke among guitar players that how many guitars is enough guitars? Well, N+1, you know, where N is the number of guitars you currently have, and you always need one more guitar. And I wanted to explore obsession and how people and we jump into our hobbies, we jump into our obsessions, and there's never enough. There's never enough mountains to climb. There's never enough paintings to paint. There's never enough gear to obsessively collect. Or
kazoos, which is what this episode is about. Right?
Kazoos. So today, I am with my very good friend, Gabe. Gabe, how long have we known each other? 10 years, maybe?
Yeah.
How long have you been married?
Yeah, probably like 10 to 11 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably roughly the same time as my marriage.
Right.
Or whatever.
Yeah, and I've known Gabe for 10 or 11 years. This is my really good friend, Gabe Peterson. Gabe and I...
Hi, camera 1. Hi, camera 2.
Gabe, you're going to find out, has a really great sense of humor. And I'm going to give him permission to just butt in.
Well, I already made a kazoo joke.
Yep.
So it wasn't even that funny.
You know, Gabe is a person who has a personality that I have found over the years that likes to find something and then fixatedly obsess about it and then just kind of discard it. And so,
that's fair.
So I was like, hey, I'm starting this podcast and I want to have you on it. He goes, I would love to be on it. I'm like, yeah, you could come on and talk about watches. And he goes, yeah, I don't really do that anymore.
I still do. I just haven't bought one in a while.
And then I go,
I'm wearing one now.
And then I go, yeah, we could come on and we could talk about drones. You do drones, right? And you go,
that's fair.
He goes, yeah, I don't really do that anymore. I'm like, Gabe, I want to have you on the podcast. You're one of my really good friends. What are you into right now?
Yeah.
And you said...
I think I said Scotch, right? Or
said,
did I say mountain biking?
You said...
That's one of my other new obsessions.
You said, well, I could come on and talk about Scotch. Or, you know, I just bought a new mountain bike. And I said, Scotch is perfect because I only drink Diet Pepsi.
Keeps you very hydrated, though, right?
Keeps me very hydrated. If you've seen the shows...
Ever so slightly caffeinated.
If you've been watching any of the shows on YouTube, you've been seeing my beverage. It's not spiked, which might change today.
There needs to be a special episode where Adam doesn't drink Diet Pepsi for, 4 days. And then you, do some kind of live situation where your, hair's all frazzled. I'm just putting it out there into the ether, so you have to do it.
My hair's all frazzled? What do you mean? My hair's always frazzled.
I know, but it's going to look crazy when you haven't had Diet Pepsi. I don't know.
So,
you're going to look like an old man with a big white beard after 4 days with no Diet Pepsi.
So, for the record, I did quit once. I was completely off of all soda, all caffeine. I did it for a while. And
it was the best day of your life.
It was. And you know what? All the things that people say... You won't get headaches anymore. Your feet won't hurt. You'll lose weight. None of that stuff happened. And there was no difference. And so I just started drinking soda again and I was happier. But I'm a person that does not drink alcohol, not for any religious purposes or anything like that, not for health purposes. I just don't like anything that's not Diet Pepsi.
So we're going to have fun.
We are going to have fun. And also...
There needs to be a compilation of your, gross Scotch faces at the end of this.
Oh. Yeah, more medicine-y.
'Cause Adam will be drinking.
We are going to be...
It's happening.
We are going to be drinking. And here's the deal. I want to have an episode... this show is all about being niche. And I want to have an episode that's all about Diet Pepsi. And I want to get someone on who's just as into it as I am.
Yeah.
And where we have like a Diet Pepsi. But that's not today. Today we're talking about
flying out
Scotch.
some Nebraska nerd from Nebraska or something like that.
Possibly.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to talk about, I wanted to ask you, tell me a little bit about how you started to get into Scotch. Why do you love it so much? Okay. And what was your gateway drug? Calling Scotch a drug, I mean, it's a little too on the nose, but...
Yeah, that's fair.
But what kind of got you into Scotch?
Yeah, the short answer is my ex-girlfriend's dad. I lived in the great state of Wisconsin for a while.
I remember you talking about
dating
that.
a gal out there. And the winters are as cold as the women, Adam. It didn't work out. But I'd like to think that somehow he's still out there and he's going to watch this. And that's going to be a dig on his daughter. But no. So, Scott, if you're seeing this, thank you. You got me into Scotch. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, so my girlfriend's dad was into Scotch. And he didn't, give me a bunch or anything. He just the idea that, a man drank Scotch was, appealing to me.
Sure.
And I was, exposed to that. And so I started just sort of... Really, I started buying, I think, Glenlivet 12 from, Walmart or, the grocery store, which is, for people that know Scotch, is, pretty inexpensive. It's not terrible, but it's just sort of And I would drink it while I played Halo out of a juice glass.
You would play Halo out of a juice glass?
No. I would drink the Scotch out of a juice glass, which is not... Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Which is not how one drinks Scotch.
Okay, so don't drink Scotch out of a juice glass, people.
Yeah, there's my hot tip. There are special glasses, which will be revealed in
special glasses.
due course. When do I actually bust those out?
Well, we'll get into that. So let's start. I have some questions that are... So if you've watched some of the episodes or listened to them, you know that I have some questions that are geared towards people with collections of things, like guitars or, I don't know, collections of things. Mini railroad trains, I don't know, people who collect things. And I have other questions that are geared towards arts-centric things. Like when I had Courtney on, we talked about the arts, and I had Adam on, we talked about YouTube. And I felt like that wasn't really appropriate for this, so I wrote a whole separate set of questions, or kind of jumbled them up, that's kind of a combination for consumable things.
Okay,
so
fair.
It's kind of a jumble.
I will add that there are Scotch collectors.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
Yeah, they're far wealthier than I. I can only afford enough to buy it and drink it, not enough to buy it and not drink it.
Yeah, as a guitar collector or guitar owner, I don't have any room in my collection for things that don't get played.
Yeah, fair. Right. I kind of feel the same way.
Yeah, that's nonsense.
I have bottles I haven't opened for a couple years, but it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Right.
They're just sort of gonna.
As my sister said in the trailer, what in the white nonsense is that?
Yeah. Oh, nice. I haven't seen the trailer.
I just published it today. I haven't really released it yet. I've just sent it to family.
Okay.
But you'll see it soon. Yeah.
Great. I'm in.
So what is one Scotch or one maybe piece in your collection that you might consider underrated, something that punches above its weight class?
I would say, so I don't even own a bottle of this right now. Mm-hmm. But a little background, I'm mostly into peated whiskey, which predominantly but not exclusively comes from a specific island off the outer Hebrides coast of Scotland, kind of the southern west coast of Scotland. And my favorite distillery there is called Laphroaig. And Laphroaig 10 is sort of their base offering, and it's anywhere between $40 and $50. Cheapest place to buy it is probably Trader Joe's. Okay, there's a hot tip.
Trader Joe's,
but I think it's only, and it's $40 there. I think it's only $48 at Safeway in town. Okay. And it's just really excellent. It's just the depth of flavor you get for that amount of money is just great. It's just a great Scotch, and I love it every time I have it. And anytime I don't have it and then buy a bottle, I'm like, well, I don't know why am I not just drinking this exclusively, or something. Okay,
so as a person who only drinks Diet Pepsi, I was texting you last week when I was at my dad's house, and I texted you a picture of whatever he was drinking.
Yeah, which was Laphroaig 10 and Ardbeg 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you texted me back, dat Peat.
Yeah, that's right.
So explain to me, who doesn't know anything about Scotch, and to viewers who might not,
Okay.
what is the peat? I know the peat is like a moss that is like also mud, right?
Yeah, it's sort of acidic, decayed plant matter that compresses over a long time.
Come on, you just said cynic.
No,
decayed,
acidic.
Okay, acidic, decayed
Acidic.
plant matter.
Yeah, sorry, enunciate.
Dude, you sound so pretentious right now.
Yeah,
Get the
that's
hell
fair.
out of here, dude.
That is exactly what it is. And it is used as a heat source.
Okay.
In mostly the British Isles.
Okay.
It's sort of not a great heat source because it doesn't burn that well. But you can dig it out of the ground, stack it so it dries, and then burn it.
Okay. Sure.
But if you're on an island, there's not a lot of trees.
Sure.
But you've got a lot of bog, and so you cut peat and dry it and burn it in the winter.
Okay.
And the reason peated whiskey is really a thing. I'm trying to think how nerdy to get. This is
nerdy.
This is a nerdy group.
That's what this podcast is all about. It's about being nerdy
Okay.
in front of strangers.
Can I give a base of what Scotch is real quick?
Yeah, yes. I
Okay.
don't know anything about it. I want to learn.
Let's back all the way up here.
Let's back up.
What is Scotch?
What is Scotch?
Scotch is whiskey from Scotland.
Okay.
What is whiskey? Whiskey is distilled grain spirit aged in oak.
Okay.
And the amount of time it's in the oak and the kind of type of oak it is different based on the country you're in. Generally, it's American oak, but it can be other things. It's funny. I was like, this was really linear in my brain for a second, and then I feel like I started in the middle. But basically, let's just say this: all alcohol, you're just pulling sugar in,
Right, and fermenting.
Yeah, throwing yeast on it. The yeast eats the sugar, makes alcohol. You kind of have beer at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want distilled spirits, you throw it in a still, and then it kind of concentrates it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of art to that. And then you have this concentrated spirit, and then you throw it in a barrel. And then in a couple of years, you have whiskey.
Okay. I understand that.
In order to extract sugar from barley, which is the predominant grain used in Scotch,
Okay.
not the only one, which is actually kind of a misconception, you need to malt it first. You probably heard the term malted Scotch or single malt Scotch. And what malted barley is the process of sort of getting the barley grains wet so that they start to germinate,
right?
Which sort of breaks those starches and stuff down. They actually start to grow a little bit, and then you're like, stop! I actually need those sugars. I don't want you to turn into a plant. And so, how do you get to stop? Well, you dry it. How do you dry it on an island with no trees? You dry it with peat.
Okay.
So it's sort of rooted in a little bit of history where.
Wow.
I need, as part of this malting process to make whiskey, I need to malt the barley. In order to dry the barley, I'm using the stuff I have around, and the stuff I have around is peat from the ground.
Okay.
Which is one of the reasons I love peaty whiskeys, because it literally is influenced by the, terroir, if you will, or whatever, the earth.
What is that word you just said?
Terroir.
Oh my gosh.
I believe it is, I think it's French for earth.
Wow. Okay.
But now I feel bad for saying it, and I mean it's and not knowing exactly. But
okay, post in the comments what terroir where it actually comes from and what it actually means.
Yeah. Google, Alexa, somebody help me.
Post if he used it properly and how it's spelled.
But yeah, so I'll add that in modernity we don't necessarily need exclusively peat to dry barley.
Sure, of course not.
We can use propane or whatever. We've got options now. But because that's been kind of a historic style, it's still, there's still a good amount of Scotch that has that flavor profile.
Wow. I cannot believe how knowledgeable you are about that. That was amazing. Those were really great answers. I didn't know any of that. I understand, the germinating and then the stopping it. That's amazing. That's a really great answer. You mentioned a misconception. Are there other misconceptions that people might have about Scotch?
Yeah, a pretty common one is that single malt Scotch is inherently better. All that single malt Scotch is malt Scotch, which is again where the mash bill of the grain that you're grinding up to extract the sugar is from malted barley. And single just means it's the product of a single distillery. So if all of the product that you mix together into a bottle comes from the Laphroaig distillery and it uses malted, grains or malted barley or whatever, then it's a single malt Scotch. So that's all it means. There's also blended Scotch.
Okay.
I've got some here whenever we get to that point.
Okay.
Smash cut to Adam drunk in his lawn.
Oh. Oh, I don't like that at all.
No. Blended Scotch is great. It just means they blended products from multiple distilleries to make a consistent product. Johnny Walker's a good example of that that everyone knows.
So it's like single malt Scotch. It's not like they're malting something multiple times. It's not like, hey man, I got this 5-time malted Scotch, man. And that's like even better because it's been malted 5 times, bro.
No, yeah. Yeah, the times of malting is never really a thing.
Right. That doesn't make any sense because you're stopping the malting with the heat.
Right. Yeah. The amount of times you distill it is a thing.
Right. Sure, I'm sure that would make a thing.
It's pretty common in like Irish whiskey to see like triple distilled or whatever. And there's, pros and cons to how many times. Generally, it'll go through a still twice before it, gets put in a barrel.
So we talked about a Scotch that you thought was underrated. Mm-hmm. What about maybe a Scotch that is currently maybe in your dog house? Maybe one that you used to love, used to drink all the time, and now you're like, you know what? I've outgrown it, or you've decided it's too expensive for what you get out of it.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're considering just pulling it out of your rotation.
Yeah. One Scotch that jumps to mind was one called Bowmore Legend. It's from Islay, which is the island where my favorite whiskey comes from. It is a peated whiskey. I had just never had any before, but it sort of was checking all the boxes of things that I like, and I bought some years ago, and it just was bad. It just wasn't good, and it just didn't have good flavor, and it just was bad. I'm trying to remember exactly why it was bad, but I'll add. One of the recent trends that gets a lot of flack from Scotch nerds is to not put age statements on bottles. They have to be at least 3 years old to be called Scotch. But if you just give it a fancy name and don't say that it's like 10 or 12 years old, it sort of like works well for marketing. But sometimes it's a cover for a bad product. Because it's called Legend, right? How bad could it be? It's pretty bad.
And so that's something that you don't care for either, or?
Yeah, I drank a little bit of it, and then my brother-in-law bought me one of those like little mini barrels where you can age your own whiskey, and I poured it into there to like make it better. And then I think I still didn't like it when it came out. I would be nervous to figure out how much money I've spent on Scotch for the last 15 years or whatever I've been doing this, but I haven't spent any money on Bowmore. So,
there you go.
So and people really like it. Like there's some really good bottlings. Yeah. It's not as common too, so it's like it's harder to get, and I feel like I kind of got burned once, and I just haven't gone back.
Yeah. Well, if you didn't like it, don't keep wasting your money. Don't.
Yeah.
Maybe I was wrong. It's like a jilted girlfriend that broke your heart. You can't go back.
That's right. That's right. That's why I live in California.
You got to walk away.
That's right.
Yeah, that's why you live in California.
Sorry, Scott, if you're out there and you're watching this.
Do you have any notable bad experiences or train wrecks that you can recall with Scotch? I'm not talking all those times that you ended up on the front lawn. Yeah. But oh, man. I can't really think of any examples, but do you have any bad experiences with Scotch? And what did you learn from those?
Oh, man. I've had a lot of really good experiences with Scotch. Truth be told, I have been pretty careful. Like, I don't drink a lot. But when I am going to have, I'm on vacation or whatever, and I'm going to have one extra drink, it's never Scotch. Because I'm pretty careful not to ruin the thing that I enjoy.
Okay. So
nothing jumps to mind. There was one funny Wisconsin story that involved taking a cab through the Taco Bell drive-thru. Because I was in no good place to drive. This was post-breakup before I moved home.
Okay.
And Scotch, I think, was involved in that night. But I maybe regretted it. I don't know. It was a funny story. I'll tell that on the patrons only one. Gabe's Taco Bell drive-thru Scotch story. That's right. Yeah, I don't know if you have a patron yet.
No, there's no patron. Someday
when you start one, I'll tell that whole story. I don't have a lot of those stories, but I have one, and I won't be telling it to you today.
Okay, post in our Facebook group if you want us to get a Patreon.
Yeah. Start giving Adam money, and I'll be a good monkey.
This episode of the N+1 podcast has been brought to you by the N+1 podcast. You may have noticed in these early episodes I don't have sponsors. And so I've been choosing to plug little things here and there, like my Facebook group or my wife's Etsy store or my daughter's YouTube channel. And in this sponsored segment, here's what I would like you to do. First of all, we want to grow the show. Okay, so make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you're following podcasts in your podcast feed. The biggest thing you could do is rate and review. Go to Apple Podcasts or whatever your podcast feed is and rate and review this podcast. Give it 5 stars. Give us a comment if you can. That really helps us to grow. Another great thing that you could do for this show is to share it with a friend. We want to get the word out about the new podcast. That'd be a really great way to help me out. And then the other thing I wanted to tell you guys is that I created a Facebook group. I know Facebook is kind of dead, but I created a Facebook group because I wanted to create a place where we, as people with obsessions, could gather and we could talk about our obsessions. We could share our art. We could talk about the cool concerts we've been to. We could talk about the mountains we climbed. We could talk literal mountains we climbed or figurative mountains we climbed. We could talk about the scotch we drank, as we are going to find in today's episode. In the Facebook group, I will also be uploading and sharing photos from the episodes. It's a private Facebook group, so you will need to find it and add, and then I'll add you to the group. But it is, if you search on Facebook for the N+1 Podcast, Obsessed with Obsession Facebook group, you should be able to find it. I will also put a link in the show notes. You can find that. Click on that and you should take it right to you. But I'm hoping to see you in the Facebook group where we can interact and create a community where we can all geek out together and support each other. Remember, just no jerks allowed. Other than that, I want to see you in the Facebook group and we can get to know each other and support each other with our obsessions. Anyway, guys, back to Gabe, and he's gonna feed me scotch. Gross. So one of the things I like to ask people. So I come from a guitar background, right? And I wanted to ask people if they had any like DIY, anything that they built themselves for guitars. But I found that this applies to a lot of different hobbies. But I asked a lot of my guests about DIY and if they've developed any tricks of the trade or anything that they've developed on their own. Maybe you haven't picked up from someone else, that you've developed on your own, and you think maybe your way is better than what you've seen other people do?
Man, it feels so arrogant to feel like
come on,
to feel like I have developed these things and I'm not just a product of the internet or Reddit or whatever.
Just bring it, baby.
I'm trying to think.
Keeping in mind that we're not in a vacuum, so like everything is a culmination of like everything, right?
I will say, when I nose a Glencairn glass, I shove my whole nose in there, and I open my mouth a little. I think I learned this from somebody, but I'm going to own it like I invented it.
Definitely you.
This is a little bit
You definitely invented this. You've never seen it or heard it anywhere else.
That's right.
Guys, you're hearing it here first. Gabe invented this.
Yeah, that's right. I drink a lot of like high alcohol strength stuff.
Okay.
Because usually the intensity of flavors is crazy. You'll see again. Smash cut to Adam and his lot.
Okay.
For reference, this is all faster than I would normally probably. And if your palate's not really trained for it, it's really intense. And I smell it while I drink it. Like it's a whole like thing. The best way to kind of get a good nose of that, but not like just burn your nose with alcohol, is to hold your mouth open and draw air from your nose and your mouth at the same time. Okay. So you brought cups. You want to demonstrate how that looks? Yeah. So show everybody what you brought. Okay. So this is a Christmas present that I got that I bring camping. What? Is this in frame? Yes. Okay. Because you are framed up on this camera right here. That's right. Camera one. So what is going on here? These are Glencairn glasses, which are sort of the whiskey glass of nerds. They are from a Scottish company, and people drink scotch out of them, but people drink bourbon out of them too. Okay. So bourbon and scotch, that's the thing. So what that would look like is, and what I usually you give it a little bit of a swirl to kind of coat the edges, and then all the whiskey starts to evaporate through the nose, which is fluted down a little bit here, which kind of concentrates it. And so I'll give it a little swirl, and then I'll kind of hold my mouth up. Instead of like closing my mouth and, smelling it, just really carefully. And you're pulling in from your mouth. So you're breathing in from your mouth and your nose at the same time. Yeah, and it kind of dilutes it a little bit in the glass. Makes the fumes not so strong. Yeah.
Which
is interesting because the glass is literally designed to kind of concentrate the fumes, and then I'm sort of defeating it by like
probably
opening my mouth
because we do tasting in our mouth too. Probably also opens up your palate and does some of those things too.
Yeah. Sometimes like if I'm drinking a Scotch, I'll even like coat my mouth with it and just like draw in a breath.
Yeah.
Like not enough. You don't want to pull it into your lungs because that'll mess you up. But it gives you kind of a different experience.
Almost like when you're aspirating olive oil or something like.
That's right. Yeah. When you're near death, because you're aspirating olive oil, it's because you went too hard.
Nice.
Have you aspirated olive oil, Adam? Is that also going to be on the Patreon episode?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, just perfect.
Sign up for the Patreon we don't have yet.
That's right. $5 a month.
Guilty pleasures. Do you have any guilty pleasures on this? Like, this is what I like to say is like, if you were drinking Scotch with other people that were drinking Scotch, you wouldn't do it, but if you were at home alone, you would definitely do this. Like, if other people would maybe, like, look down on you, and now you're on camera, you have to admit it.
Yeah.
Bear your shame for us all.
This is going to end up making me sound like such a pretentious jerk.
Oh, my God, I want to hear about it.
But really, it's when I like, get a really good bottle that I really like, it's just drinking it by myself.
Okay.
I got burned years ago when I had significantly less income or whatever, and I had a decent bottle, and I poured some for a friend. And he just about like poured it out because he was like so offended by it and was like over it. And I was like so bummed. And it was, boo on me, like I didn't know. But
he
like
poured it out?
Well, no, he just about poured it out and he like pushed it away and said like, I'm not drinking this. And I was like so bummed because I was like, oh, I really like this. And, my personality is to force everyone to like the things that I like.
Okay, sure, I understand that. I'm making a podcast that I'm forcing on people.
That's right. That's right.
Once it releases, I'm going to send it to everybody
Everyone needs
that I
to
know.
like what I like.
And I'm making a podcast about literally everything. So
that's fair. But, so you end up being a little selective with who you share stuff with.
Sure.
So there are a few friends, if I've got some really expensive whiskey, that I'll share with them.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a lot of people that I just don't anymore. Whereas I used to just, like, anything that I had, I'd bring to whatever, and we'd all drink it. And because I'm just social.
Yeah.
And I just don't do that anymore. So, like, my wife got me a really nice bottle of, it's a whiskey called Octomore, which is the most peated whiskey. Like, they smoke the barley with the peat for, like, I don't remember the exact time, but it's like more than double the amount of time that it's normally done. Like they low smoke it forever. And so it just makes this insanely like smoky, like you just have a drop and it's so good. And incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
And so I don't buy it that often. But anyway, my wife bought me a bottle and I drank it mostly by myself, I think inside of probably 45 days. Which is really quick for a bottle for me.
It sounds like a lot.
It's like I was having some every night because it was just so good. So that was my thing. It's like, this is just really good and I really like it. And I'm just, and I'm not one of those people who like will only drink with other people. It's not like a rule that I'm violating or whatever. But it was just too good.
So your guilty pleasure is hogging it all for yourself.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Having a really good bottle and just
screw those other people.
Drinking it. Yeah.
This is for daddy.
Yeah. Yeah. It was Octomore 12.3. If there's any other Scotch nerds out there,
send him some.
Oh, please. I need those Patreon dollars to go to Adam. So somehow I'll get a bottle of whiskey out of this.
This is one of the things I like to ask everyone is favorite. So we've been talking about a lot of different Scotches. So what is your favorite? What's the winner? If you could only drink one, if you're stranded on an island with one Scotch for the rest of your life, what is your favorite version?
Yeah. It's got to be Laphroaig, and I'll describe an experience to you. Laphroaig was my first peaty whiskey, and I originally hated it. My ex-girlfriend's dad mentioned it, and he pronounced it terribly. He called it Laphroaig or something like that. And I was at a wedding in Nebraska and saw a bottle at the store, and I bought one, and I was like, this stuff tastes like socks. Like, that's terrible. But it was like $60 or something. It was crazy. And so I just kept drinking it because I was like, I bought it. And so I ended up really liking it. And then I've been drinking Laphroaig ever since. I actually coincidentally don't have a bottle open right now, so I didn't bring any today.
I really wanted to taste socks.
Yeah, right? Yeah. It's perfect. Oh, it's so good. But when, in 2015, my wife and I went to Scotland, and we went to Islay, where Laphroaig is from, and we went to the Laphroaig distillery, and we were waiting for our tour to start, and it was low tide, and there was sort of seaweed on the beach.
And you saw where they get the socks from.
That's right, yeah, and they were wringing out socks into a barrel, and I didn't know what that was about. No, so it's sort of low tide. There's seaweed on the beach. They're peating barley at their floor maltings. They spread the malt all over a floor, and so they can kind of peat it evenly. So there's sort of the peat smoke in the air and the salty seaweed smell of the ocean. And it clicked in that moment that those were things I could taste and smell in the whiskey that I had been drinking at that point for 8-9 years. So like,
I taste like.
Yeah.
Oh!
Like, this whole scene that I was like in the moment is like in the bottle.
You can taste it.
Yeah, like I get chills talking about it. Like it was so like surreal. Like the like oceany, salty, smoky, peaty
That's
like
amazing.
thing. It's like they make this here and they ship it over to me, and I've been experiencing it in the United States for a while.
Yeah, it sounds like a sales pitch.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're smoking the ganja.
Imagine yourself.
Imagine yourself
That's right.
walking in Scotland.
Laphroaig, if you see this and you're looking for a brand ambassador, I would happily do that job.
But that's amazing. That sounds really cool.
So awesome. It is my favorite whiskey, and it probably always will be. And there's some close seconds, but yeah,
awesome.
That was probably one of my best Scotch experiences.
So, what would you tell to someone who is new to whiskey, to Scotch, that is never tried it before? So I'm a person that doesn't drink, so I'm not going to go out and buy some Scotch. But maybe someone is a person that drinks, and they say, I want to try to get into Scotch. What would you tell them? Where would you tell them to start? Where would you tell them to spend their money? What would you tell them to skip?
Yeah, so honestly, the first thing I would spend money on is a glass. I get one of these Glencairn glasses. You can buy them on Amazon all day long. I think
that improves the experience.
It really does, and it slows it down because you're not guzzling out of this, or whatever.
Yeah, because
and you can actually smell. It's a lot different what you can smell out of here than you can smell out of just like a wine glass or whatever.
And Scotch is not a guzzling booze anyway. Scotch is like a sipping booze, right?
I mean, for some people it is. For me, it's not. Oh, let me push up my glasses really quick. Yeah, let me get my monocle out of my back pocket. It's not for me, Adam. And then I would just get whatever. I mean, get some Glenlivet 12. That's what I started on.
Okay. And Glenlivet 12
or whatever, Glenfiddich. They're all, you can get them at any grocery store, and pour it in the glass. Pour just like an ounce or two. Swirl it around, smell it, sit it on the table. Don't even drink it for 10 minutes. Just keep smelling it. Just kind of let it wash over you a little bit, and then have little sips and kind of see what you smell and taste and whatever. The other thing I would add is that you can do a lot of damage for $50 for a Scotch bottle. There's this whole thing about old Scotch and whatever, and old Scotch is, I've had some, it's really good, but you can get really good stuff in the $40 to $50 range. So start with something that's $20 at the store, try it. If you're kind of into it, explore some other options. Peaty whiskey, like I said, Laphroaig 10, it's like $40-50 at Trader Joe's. Generally available, comes in kind of a white and green container. You might not be into the peaty thing, but it might work on you too after your first bottle. Because you spent $50 on it. So
you mentioned Scotch is from Scotland.
That's right.
If it's not from Scotland, it's not Scotch. It's something else.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as American Scotch.
No, there's American whiskey. There's Japanese whiskey that is made in a Scotch style.
Yeah. Okay.
There's bourbon, which is whiskey from America. But
the whole reason it's Scotch is like the peat, right? The peat, and that's from Scotland, right?
No, the peat. So that's actually a pretty common misconception too, and it's one my wife had hilariously. Is that peaty whiskey, although it's my thing, is probably like 20% of what's out there in the Scotch world. And I wouldn't start with it. Like the stuff that I brought for you to taste, like it kind of wrecks your palate. So you kind of want to work your way up to it.
Okay.
When my wife and I were in Scotland, we went to like a...
And real quick, I'm going to rough for a second.
Yeah. Shoot.
I'm going to rough for a second because you said you want to pour it and let it sit. Do you want to pour? Because the next thing we're going to do is to start to taste. Do you want to pour something and let it sit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't need to sit that long. I've had this bottle for years, and Scotch doesn't go bad in a bottle, but it will lose alcohol over time, and so it gets a little less intense.
Well, I don't know if it needed to like aerate or like...
If it's a new bottle, let it sit for a while.
Okay.
A rule of thumb from my favorite Scotch YouTuber, which is Ralphie, is to let it sit for every year that it is old. Now, this doesn't have an age statement. It doesn't say 12 or 10 or whatever on it. But if you get a Glenlivet 12 or whatever, just let it sit for 10, 12 minutes. Especially if
After
it's a new
you
bottle.
pour it
Yeah.
out at room temperature.
Air will make it taste different, but it doesn't go bad or whatever. So,
Okay. So anyway, you were saying.
oh yeah, we'll pour a little bit of this. This is called Monkey Shoulder, and it's a Speyside blend.
So this is a blend.
And I've had this for way too long. So it's bottled at 43% alcohol, but I bet you it's sitting a little under 40 now just because it's over-aired out.
Okay. I remember what we were talking about. You were talking about the difference of peat whiskey and the non-peat whiskeys.
Oh, and
yeah.
I was telling a story about my wife.
Yeah.
We were in Edinburgh, and we went to the Scotch Whiskey Experience, which is like this kind of like Disneyland ride Scotch thing that was just sort of silly and touristy, but we did it. And at the end, you taste Scotches from different regions. There's like, I can't remember how many Scotch regions. I should know. I think it's like 5. And my wife didn't know that they all weren't terribly peaty. She's like, wait, only one of these tastes like the stuff that you drink. And I was like, yeah. The rest of it doesn't taste like this. And she had like no idea.
Okay.
So, yeah. And it kind of blew her mind.
Yeah. Well, let's get into a new segment that I like to call Let's Get Into It. I had so much fun with Keenan playing guitar, and I had so much fun with Courtney when she did a improv game with me. And I knew that Gabe was bringing Scotch. That I think I'm going to make it a regular segment as much as we can make it work. That we are going to try to incorporate our guests, trying to do the thing with them together on a regular basis. So let's get into it. So what do? Is this I'm taking the Diet Pepsi and I'm drinking it, right?
First of all, don't add ice to it. That's stupid.
But I want Scotch on the rocks. That's what they order in the movies, right?
No. A little water, especially if the alcohol content is high. Great.
My dad said 3 drops of water.
Perfect. Really to taste. Like I don't do, especially with I drink the high alcohol content stuff and I drink it straight.
So am I picking this up?
Yeah, just grab it.
I've never picked up Scotch before.
Yeah, I give it a swirl.
Swirly, whirly.
So you're kind of coating the sides of the glass.
Okay.
My favorite YouTuber says gentle swirl, but I'm pretty violent.
But I'm a YouTuber. I'm not your favorite YouTuber.
I give it a hard swirl. Well, not yet, Adam. I don't think we've released these episodes yet.
I'm on Miller's Custom Guitars, man.
Oh, that's right. No, I think I'm a subscriber.
Okay. But
anyway.
you just said I'm not your favorite YouTuber. Okay. And so then what do? I smell and I breathe in it.
Yeah. Give it a smell.
Okay, yeah, it's much less strong if I do it through the mouth also.
Scotch is bottled at a minimum alcohol content of 40%.
Okay.
Monkey Shoulder's bottled at 43, but like I said, it's been sitting in this bottle for too long. I think I've had this bottle for like 6 years, and it should have burned it a long time ago.
So I feel like medicine when I was a kid.
Okay, sure. So this is a Speyside blend. I'm gonna sort of lead your mind a little bit. Well, I was just gonna say I often think that Speyside whiskeys have like a little bit of a green apple-y kind of sweetness to them.
Yeah, I'm smelling that.
Yeah.
Like kind of like a green apple like candy.
Yeah, like
smell.
a Jolly Rancher.
Yeah, Jolly Rancher-ish.
Yeah. So this isn't my favorite. This is a bottle. So I'll explain that I used to buy a bunch of different things to try a bunch of different things, and then I figured out what I liked, and I stopped buying like random whatevers. But this is a pretty decent Speyside blend. This is actually a good one to start with if you can find it. It's like 30,
Am I holding
$30.
it to try to warm it up or holding the bottom?
Yeah, you don't have to warm it up.
Okay.
I mean, I kind of hold it whatever. I wouldn't. You don't have to be worried about it like wine or whatever. Nobody's gonna get mad at you for that.
Okay. Am I just taking a sip or doing all of it or?
Yeah, whatever you want.
How angry am I going to be?
I don't. So it's funny because you don't drink at all.
At all. I hate anything that's not Diet Pepsi. I don't even like water. I drink it, but I don't like it.
I would say you're not going to be angry with this one. This one goes down pretty easy. It's been sitting in the bottle too long. The alcohol content's pretty low. But you're also not used to it, so like.
So do I just go for it?
Yeah, have a little nip. Drink the whole thing, whatever you want to do. Let it kind of coat your mouth.
That's not horrible.
Yeah, it tastes maybe a little oakiness.
That's
A little sweetness.
Coats the mouth.
Yeah.
Burns a little bit.
Yeah, especially if you're not used to it. I built up a tolerance. So like that bottle of Octomore that I mentioned earlier was bottled at 62%. This is like probably 39 now because it's like all burned off.
That's not bad.
Yeah, so if you're sitting outside, you're sitting by a campfire, kind of smelling and tasting this little buddy, like, smash cut to Adam on the lawn. Now he's on the roof. He doesn't have any clothes on.
Okay.
Okay. So let's do something a little different.
Okay.
This is Bruichladdich Islay barley. This is a non-peated whiskey from Islay. Bruichladdich also makes peaty whiskeys. That Octomore that I talked about is made by this distillery. But this is sort of their non-peated stuff, which is actually under the distillery name. And the Islay barley just means it's all barley that came from Islay.
I have some Diet Pepsi I can use to rinse the glasses out.
I poured you probably more of that.
That's like way too much.
Yeah.
But we're not sharing.
That's right. You can, whatever. You can dump or spit or whatever. Throw it over your shoulder. It's your house. So this one I would describe as a little bit more farm and barn with like a little bit of saltiness.
A little more farm and barn. That you're really selling it.
Yeah, but probably none of that like green apple stuff. Probably more like hay, kinda.
Okay.
Maybe like a little bit of honey. Maybe like still a little bit of sweetness, but like. What do you think it smells like?
I'm not getting any of that.
That's all right. It smells like what it smells like at some level.
To me, it just smells like booze.
Yeah? I'm just getting over a cold, too, so my nose is...
Yeah, I don't... The other one had, to me, more smells.
Yeah, okay. The other one was sweeter, for sure.
This is just more mild smelling. Oh. Yeah, more medicine-y.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely...
Medicinal is, I think, the word you're looking for.
Yeah, this is...
Just wait till we get to the peaty stuff.
Yeah, definitely taste a little bit more barney.
Okay. Again, there's no... So, one of the things... I have a friend who sort of introduced me to drinking wine. One of the things he told me is you taste and smell whatever you taste and smell. Mm-hmm. There's no right answer. There's certainly through lines, but...
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I got the barniness of that one.
This is Edgeadure finished in a Sauternes cask, which is, I think, like a fortified wine. So it's going to be extra sweet.
Oh.
So Scotch has to be aged in oak for 3 years.
Okay.
Generally, it's ex-bourbon casks. Because bourbon has to be aged by law to be called bourbon in New American oak, and once it's held whiskey, they can't reuse that barrel.
Okay.
So it kind of creates a secondary market where the Scotch rules, they don't have that law that has to be New American oak. It just has to be aged in oak for a couple of years. So a lot of ex-bourbon barrels get sent on, like broken down, sent on a boat over. But then oftentimes whiskey is finished in a different barrel, so it can be aged for however many years and just oak from whatever from a bourbon distillery, and then they'll take a wine cask and throw it in that for a bit, and that will impart some different flavors. Pretty common one is like a sherry cask.
Okay.
But this is a Sauternes cask, which
now I know that is it bourbon barrels where the barrels are like smoked? They're like burnt on the inside?
they've got like a char.
Is Scotch like that too, usually?
Yeah, I mean, it's the exact same barrels, usually.
Okay.
So, yeah,
but
so they'll be charred.
I'm sure it's got a lot of the smoke, like, gone... It's gone into the whiskey by then, right?
Yeah,
usually?
the smoke, I mean, you can get flavor imparted from the level of char on the barrel, but the smoke generally comes from the barley. It doesn't come from the barrel.
Really?
Yeah. So this one is going to be a lot sweeter. You'll probably like this better than the other two. And I only say that because people that don't drink things like this often the sweet ones tend to be more palatable.
You calling me a sissy?
This
look, if the Diet Pepsi cup fits, right?
This distillery is really cool. They use a thing called a worm tub to cool the distillate.
Oh, I don't like that at all.
Oh, interesting. Can you taste the like wine sweetness to it?
Oh. Yeah.
That's the best.
That's awful. Oh, that's the worst one. Oh,
Is it?
whew, that's horrible.
Awesome.
That's
We're
awful.
getting more horrible. I designed these to
What's
sort of...
the alcohol in that one? Is
We're
that
sort
more?
of ramping up in flavor. I think it's 46. 43, 46? Yeah, 46.
Yeah, that one's horrible.
So wait till we get to the last one.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
The first
one's
one's definitely my favorite by the far.
Okay, so just like kind of a space side.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so... If you,
Honey, more soda, please.
if you were going to go to the store and get a Glenlivet or Glenfiddich or whatever, it'd probably taste kind of something like...
I'm just
like
kidding.
that.
She's not.
Yeah, that's right.
She's ignoring us.
There's a soda lady? This distillery does a cool thing, though, where you have to cool the after it comes out of the still, the liquor's kind of hot. Mm-hmm. You got to cool it down, and they run it through a thing called a worm tub, where it's just this long coil of, I think, copper, and they actually are right next to a river. And so they divert some of the river water into this like really tall bath thing.
That's
and
cool,
and then
man.
The liquor cools down as it goes down this kind of corkscrew thing.
That's cool.
Through river water. Yeah, it's cool.
That's awesome.
It is cool. Yeah, it's a really beautiful. It's in this little town called Pitlochry. It's beautiful.
All right, cool. Got two more?
Yeah, this is Caolila 12. This one you don't see as often at stores. Caolila is actually
That's beautiful.
the biggest maker of peated whiskey in the world, I think, probably. But the reason you don't see it that often is because their whiskey is more often used in blends. It's actually owned by Diageo, which is one of the biggest sort of like liquor corporate multinational companies. And most of Caolila ends up in like Johnny Walker.
Okay.
So Johnny Walker has like a product called Johnny Walker Black and Johnny Walker Double Black. Mm-hmm. Any of the smoke you're tasting in that is whiskey that came from the Caolila distillery being put into that blend.
Wow.
But for whatever reason, I found this locally, like it was underpriced or priced wrong or something.
Okay.
And I got it for way too cheap.
Now, is this peated or not?
So this is peated. So
Okay.
this is on that island. It's a huge factory distillery. I actually didn't even visit it because it's just like, there's just like a monster.
So this is the first peated one.
Yeah, and this one's kind of, it's not crazy peat. This one's sort of a gentle peat.
Gentle Pete. I remember my good friend, Gentle Pete. He was a kind soul.
This is good stuff. 43%. Yeah, beautiful bottle. It's right on the...
I like the smell of this one. It's
East Coast.
awesome.
So you might be a peat man. So that it's like drinking a campfire kind of, but you also get these sort of like phenolic, sort of band-aidy, like medicinal flavors too.
Okay.
Which I love. I love whiskey if it tastes like burning tires or whatever. Like I'm here for it.
You know, they don't tell you about that. You know, you want to be drinking them burning tires.
That's right. Yeah, the more it tastes like Band-Aids and burning tires, the more...
This one smells
like
awesome.
It. Yeah. So maybe that's your jam.
Does it taste exactly like Diet Pepsi?
No, it does
probably not.
Yes.
Okay.
For reference, this is all faster than I would normally probably drink.
Okay. Like the very first flavor was okay, and then it was very quickly, like all over my mouth with like very pungent, like sharp. And then the aftertaste isn't bad.
Yeah.
It's kind of smoky.
Kind of rolls. It's a journey. I like whiskey that's a journey. Sometimes it like hits you on the front palate, and then kind of fills your mouth with like smoke, and then you might tail off to some more like oaky notes or whatever.
Yeah. So this one definitely has layers of flavors.
Yeah. Okay. This one's probably the oldest we've had so far. It's a 12-year-old. Peaty whiskey's interesting. It has kind of an inverse relationship with peatiness and age. Where the older a peaty whiskey is, usually the less peaty it is, the more complex it is. Mm-hmm. Which is why a lot of peaty whiskeys are bottled young. Like Laphroaig and Ardbeg, their base bottlings are 10 years old. Because they actually want that peat flavor. Mm-hmm. Like a Laphroaig 25 isn't a crazy smoky.
That wasn't the worst one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So this next one's intense. You ready for it?
I am. I feel like I'm flushing.
You might be. Maybe you have that like Japanese gene where you're allergic to alcohol.
I wouldn't know since I never drink. It's probably just because I never drink, and it's also very warm in here because I have the fans turned off because we're podcasting.
Yeah, fair. This is called Ardbeg Corryvreckan. I may or may not be saying that right. This is same distillery as that bottle your dad had. Your dad had Ardbeg 10. This is bottled at 57.1%. So that's probably considered cask strength. So
50 what?
57.
Woo!
Yeah.
That's very strong.
Yeah, super strong. This one, incredibly smoky, incredibly like sort of creosote, dark, dirty smoke.
Okay.
But kind of pretty too. Like if you sit with it in a glass and smell it for a long time and like sip it slow or maybe add a little water, like you can get a lot out of this.
Yeah. Can I add like 2 drops of Diet Pepsi to it?
No, you may not, sir. Get away with that.
You
straw.
are no fun.
Your dad would probably love this. I won't
Miller.
go too crazy.
We got some Ardbeg.
Corey, yeah, they have.
What is it? Ardbeg what?
Coreyvrecken. It's sort of.
Coreyvrecken.
It's Coryvreck.
Show the camera.
And
we're gonna get photos of all this stuff.
Yeah. So this is camera 1, camera 2. Am I flailing wildly here between shots? So this one's intense.
Ardbeg Coreyvrecken.
This is part of Ardbeg's core line. You can get it. It's probably not as easy to get as some of the other.
So this is the most peaty.
This isn't the most. This is the most peaty whiskey we have here.
Of the ones that we have.
That's right. My brother-in-law got me this for Christmas.
Can I ask what a bottle of that might set you back?
I think it's 90.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going in. Just doing a little sip.
Yeah, you can have just a little bit of this one and just let it like roll around.
I kind of like this one.
Yeah, I mean this might be your jam, Adam. Your dad has a bottle of Ardbeg. You should get some.
I like this one. I took the tiniest little sip though. Like some of the other ones, I kind of got a little bit more.
Well, and that's one of the things I like about the high alcohol stuff, is with the high alcohol content, you usually get a really thick, sort of oily mouthfeel too. So I don't know if you can tell, but like it's almost like thicker, syrupy. And so you just have like a little bit of it and just coats your mouth. And like I said, hanging out with your buddies, I was camping in Yosemite like 3-4 weeks ago, and we were having,
I like that one the best, I think.
Having some of this out in the middle of the valley.
Sorry to interrupt. I kind of want to go back and try the first one just to see, because that was the one I liked the best. Yeah, I like this one the best.
Yeah, the first one's going to taste like water now. Maybe not to you.
This is the one I like the best. But I think part of it is because it's so strong. You gotta I don't think I could just. I don't have very much in here.
Yeah.
I don't have very much in here. I don't think I could just mouthful that much. And there's like a teaspoon in there.
Yeah. No, and I wouldn't either. I'd just little sips. But see what I mean? Like you pour like half an ounce in here, and you can probably sit with it for 20-30 minutes. Just have a little sip here and there.
Contemplate life.
Right. You're not even gonna feel it. Drinking it that slow, and you're having a good time, and you're drinking the terroir of a distant nation. It's great.
I don't hate that.
Cool.
Behind.
Sláinte bar or whatever.
Oh yeah, Sláinte.
Yeah.
Sorry, my ancestors are Jewish, so.
Oh, okay. Deal.
Do the soda pound cleanse.
Oh yeah.
I want just a little bit of the first one.
Baseline of Diet Pepsi. Man, after talking up Laphroaig so much, I'm sad I didn't drink it.
Yeah, I still have the apple smell in the first one. Yeah, it's very like straightforward.
Kind of tame, huh?
Yeah.
Scotch for boring people.
I like them both.
Yeah, sure.
This is like drinking Scotch, and that's like sipping Scotch.
Yeah, and I will say, like, I don't drink much of this if it's hot outside.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, it's already smoking from fires and stuff all the time. And, like, it just doesn't feel the same as, like...
I think I like that one better.
A cold fall night or whatever, and you just pour some smoky Scotch. Maybe you got a wood fire going. Like, that's the dream.
So, we're going to move on. That was really interesting and informational. I learned a lot.
Okay, great.
That is literally the most alcohol I've ever had in my life if you took all of it and combined it.
I'm going to cap it with some Diet Pepsi.
Cap it with some Diet Pepsi. Sláinte again.
That's funny. All right.
So, the most important question.
Yeah.
N+1.
Okay.
What is next for Gabe when it comes to Scotch? Is there one that you've been eyeballing, that you've been looking to get? Is there something you've been saving up for? Is one you've heard about as the next big thing? what's next?
What is next? I would say the bottle I'm most likely to buy next is Laphroaig. Every year releases what they call a Carchus bottling. It's spelled Cairdeas, and it's pronounced Carchus, like Carchase. So that's Gaelic for you, and it means friend, I believe, in Scotch Gaelic. And it's their sort of like Scotch club release. And usually it seems like I can find them around Christmas time, and I try to get one every year. And every year it's different. Okay. So it's usually finished, like one year it's finished in a port cask, and the next year it's only from a specific warehouse using specific ingredients or, whatever. I think this year is finished in a some kind of sherry cask or something. But they're always really good. So I wish I had to buy one around Christmas time. Or I put it on my Christmas list at the very least.
Nice.
And those I actually have, and it takes me a long time to open them. Any given time I have 2 or 3 kind of laying around. Yeah. And I just wait a couple years to drink them.
Okay.
So.
Awesome. So, I'm going to wrap up with 2 silly things. Okay. Now, if you've been listening to the podcast, these are new. Gabe doesn't know because the podcasts haven't launched when he's listening to this. But these are new. I just thought of them this week, and I'm so excited. Okay. I didn't even warn you. Yeah? But I'm going to have 2 things on the outro. As we go on the way out, I just want to do. I'm going to ask every guest these 2 silly things. I don't know. They might not stick, but I thought of these this week, and I laughed myself giddy.
Oh man, there's a lot of lead up to these questions.
This is a segment on that way out. This is a segment that I'm going to call. You just dropped this. Let me pick it up for you, and I want you to tell a short story and casually drop the name of the most famous person you've ever met.
Oh, geez. I don't know that I've met any famous people.
If the most famous person you ever met is not very famous, that's still the most famous person you ever met.
Oh, my gosh. One time I was at Disneyland with my brother, and I was like 18 or 19. I had just graduated high school, and we just decided we were going to go to Disneyland because, we had, we could do that or whatever. And we felt like this newfound freedom. Sure. And my brother, we're kind of walking around or whatever. My brother's really into WWF at the time, E Now, yep. Wrestling. And he saw Lou Engle and almost peed his pants. He was so excited. He was just like, oh my god, it's Lou Engle, oh my god. That is the only celebrity encounter. We didn't talk to him. We didn't shake his hand. There was a small crowd around him, but my brother just about lost his mind. And it's still funny to think about. He was like, oh my gosh, it's Lou Engle, oh my gosh.
Okay, well you just dropped...
I barely even know who Lou Engle is because it's not my thing. Right. Are you familiar with this person?
I have no idea who that is.
I think he was big in the WWF in the early 2000s.
Yeah. Well, you just dropped it. Let me pick it up for you. Here's the name you just dropped.
I hope I said his name right. Alexa.
I don't have
WWF stars from the early 2000s. Alexa, help me.
Okay, and then the last silly question. Okay. And this is silly, but you guys have no idea. I take this so seriously. We're probably going to have a whole episode about this someday. Oh, man. What is, in your opinion, the greatest cartoon theme song of all time?
Oh, probably Animaniacs.
That's been a popular answer as I've been asking some
really?
people. I've been asking my sister, some other people.
Other people said Animaniacs?
My dad and sister both said Animaniacs.
Wow. All right, well, I'm in good company then.
Yeah, I have.
That was the first one that it just gut reaction.
Totally insane-y.
Yeah, totally. I feel it was like a formational cartoon for me or something.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Animaniacs, great theme song. I have so many people. I have so many thoughts on cartoon theme songs. We are going to get into it someday, but not today. But we're going to ask every guest.
Do you think that's niche enough to have a successful, or too niche to have a successful podcast?
Guys, I want to talk about, the reason I'm asking this question is because for years, I've wanted to form a cover band that does nothing but play cartoon theme songs, and I could never get anybody to be in the band with me. And so we're going to talk about cartoon theme songs. We're going to ask everybody what their favorite cartoon theme song is, and there's a lot of great ones. You don't think there is, and then you start thinking about all of the great cartoon theme songs. Yeah, and there's tons of great cartoon
Captain
theme songs.
Planet was a real good one.
X-Men.
Yeah.
Animaniacs. The Tick. Totally.
Yeah. I almost feel like you could throw in Power Rangers.
Go, Power Rangers.
It was almost a cartoon. Totally. That's
Okay.
It's really perfect for your skills.
We're going to ask all of the guests that. But anyway.
So far 3 out of 5 has been Animaniacs.
We've got quite a few Animaniacs, but we're going to keep a tally running.
All right.
We're going to get a board. I have the N+1 board, and we're going to keep a tally running of all the cartoon theme songs that get recommended. Anyway. But
Sub-answer, Pinky and the Brain?
Pinky, that only one answer per show per guest.
But it's part of the Animaniacs.
I'm sorry, if you want to suggest Pinky and the Brain, you're gonna have to come back on and talk about something else, and then you can bring up Pinky and the Brain. Gabriel
Talk
Peterson.
about watch. I'll start buying watches again. This is a modded SKX by Seiko.
Well, Gabe,
pressed in a sapphire crystal. Oh wait, sorry.
This has been Gabe Peterson. He is a very good friend of mine. You can tell from how we interact that we are very good friends. And this has been a great education. I learned so much I never knew. I tried stuff I've never tried. My world has changed. I'm not going to go out and buy Scotch. I'm not going to drink some when I
should have presented you with a bottle.
I'm not going to drink any.
Wait, I put it in post, Adam.
I'm not going to drink any when I'm visiting my dad and he offers me some.
What? The Ardbeg? You got to drink the Ardbeg when you're there.
No.
Come on.
Is it Diet Pepsi? No. But this is great. Yeah. Gabe, thank you so much for your time. Now, do you want to share, if people want to connect with you, do you want to share that information, or do you want to stay private, or how do you want to?
Yeah, if you want to see cute pictures of my child, which is 98% of my Instagram feed, which is open to the public. I believe the Instagram title is Hanks_dad_Gabe.
Okay.
Hanks Dad Gabe is my Instagram.
I'll figure out what it is,
and I'll see cute photos of my child. Yeah.
On the internet for all to see.
That's right.
Well, this has been Gabe Peterson, my good friend.
Camera 1, camera 2.
I am Adam from Miller's Custom Guitars and the N+1 podcast. Hey, if you have enjoyed this podcast,
join the Patreon.
Join the Patreon that doesn't exist. Stop saying that. I don't have one yet.
I'm speaking it into existence.
Yeah.
It's only $2 a month, everybody. I mean, come on. I'm on it.
Someday, maybe. I don't know. Whatever. For now, the way that you could support this podcast is by clicking follow or subscribe.
Okay.
Or, you know what would really be great is if you took this episode or any of our episodes and shared it with a friend. Tell a friend about this podcast. Hey, there's a new podcast, and they just talk about crazy stuff, and just share it with a friend. That would be amazing, and we just want to get the word out about a new podcast. I got great podcast guests lined up. We're going to talk about a bunch of different things, and it's going to be really cool. And so that'd be a great way that you could support the podcast. We're not going to ask for your money yet. Someday we're going to
join the Patreon. Next week's guest will actually be me in a disguise. So I'll be wearing a wig and a fake mustache over my real one.
Guys, thank you so much for listening today. This has been Adam, and until next time, don't be a jerk.